Well, g'day and welcome again to another Campfire Project panel discussion. And today, first of all, I have with me Pauline Crawford. How are you, Pauline?
I'm very good. So I'm swirling in here from Las Vegas, USA.
Thank you for being here. And then we also have...
Great to be here.
We've had some really great talks and it's been fantastic having you here. We've also today got with us Dawn Cady from the Blue Mountains in Sydney. How are you, Dawn?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Really good to have you here. John, don't get started. And then, by the way, we have John, everyone knows John Hope. G'day, John, how are you?
G'day, Alan. How are you?
It's great, really good, because one of the things we've been talking already on here, we've been joking, and it's like trying to keep on track with John and is really difficult. So we'll see how we go with this morning. But we've been having a chat before we got going, and we're talking about looking more into the mindset and fear and the things that we do in that particular area. And I was thinking that, Pauline, you were starting to talk about this a little bit earlier on, so I'd like to see if you'd like to kick us off.
Okay, well, I think it's quite interesting thinking about fear, and what I was thinking about was difficulty. It's funny that you should say that John's being difficult or something. But
he just gives me a hard time. That's what he's there for.
Yeah, but one of the things because fear or love are the
careful, Pauline, because if you spot it, you got it. Okay.
Well, love and fear are the energy in the world, but with fear, it's about maybe being threatened or feel that something's difficult. And I often ask audiences, how many of you are a difficult person? Now, hopefully in this audience, John will put his hand up and say, I'm difficult. I don't know. But in most English audiences, you'll get 2 or 3 people put their hand up. In an American audience, about 10. I don't know what an Aussie audience would do, maybe somewhere in the middle. But one of my theories starting is that if we can be in control of fear, there's actually no such thing as a difficult person. It's just a difficult situation. So it's how I manage that situation, which is where the mindset comes in. But so many people almost... they decide that everybody's difficult, so they're going to have a difficult day, but they're almost choosing to see them as difficult. So the other thing is that they're different, and in their difference, I suppose my question to the group would be: what is it we fear about things being different? Is it because it's the unknown? I don't know, but is it? We were talking earlier about, when you get to know something, then it's okay. When you maybe do martial arts and you feel you're fit, so you can focus and you can frighten any advance or threat off. But actually, it's all down to me, isn't it? It's all down to us. So I was just going to throw that out to the panel, is that there's no such thing as a difficult person. It's just a difficult situation. And it comes back to me and how I deal with it.
That's right. Yeah, it's always comes down to us, ourselves, and how we look at things. John?
Yeah, I totally agree with Pauline. You have things that, it doesn't matter what it is in life. If something happens to you in life, if it's a good thing, if it goes north, where your heart is, where you feel good, like you have birth of a child or something like that, it's not a problem. It's happiness. But if something goes south, like say there's something that happens where it gives a negative response, then you've got to have the mental health coping mechanisms to get past that, because everyone's got to have bad days. You can't have good days without bad days. Or can't have good experiences without bad experiences. That's a given. But it's what you do with the bad experiences. Some people dwell on them, they stay down them, they get a victim mentality, they get all that sort of stuff. So it's about, martial arts and my upbringing taught me from a very young age that if I'm going to have a smile on my face, I put it there, but I'm also the only person that can take it. So, but a victim mentality can turn around, you can put it on other people and say, you upset me. Bullshit. I call bullshit on that every single time. You've just got to be able to do it. And we live in a society where the mental health coping mechanisms that we used to learn have gone, because so many, we've broken relationships and broken families, and they're guilt-ridden, and single parents are brought up, and kids learn to chuck tantrums even into adult years. And my experience with policing for 20 years was every person I locked up was an adult that threw tantrums. Nothing more, nothing less. It was just that, and they did not have the coping mechanisms to deal with what they were doing, which goes back to what Pauline's saying. You know, you've got to learn to deal with negative situations in a positive, constructive way.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I've learned from my clients, when something's happened to them when they're children, when they are in a fearful situation, they automatically go to that childlike state, and that's where the tantrums come from, because they're not actually able to be an adult in that situation because they don't have the tool, the technique, or the neural pathway that allows them to be able to articulate themselves as an adult. So they go into fear and they recall a program from the past, which they play out, which is generally the tantrum, which is the shouting, which is not able to deal with the situation as an adult. So then we project blame, and that's what children do. They always go and blame someone else for something because they don't know how to take responsibility themselves. So it's exactly right what Pauline is saying and what John is saying. It's just that we've got to teach people and show people how to take control and how not to be a victim and how not to automatically respond as a child, and show them that and let them understand that it's not your fault. You just don't know a different way, but let's show you a different way. This is another approach that you can take. And when they start to recognize that consciously, they'll create a neural pathway where there'll be a junction where they'll have the choice of the old way and the choice of the new way. And then eventually, when they're not feeding the neural pathway of the old way, they will become a new person. They'll be able to control their feelings and they'll have emotional intelligence.
Yeah. And as you say, when we're stressed and we're lost and everything, we're self-doubting and everything. And then when we hear that, you've got to change this, you don't have the neuron pathways and other things, the person on the negative side will then withdraw further and go, well, they're looking at me, looking down their nose at me. But it's like any skill. If we haven't practiced it, we're not going to be any good at it. So it's not putting blame onto it. It's not looking at yourself lesser than what you are, but just realise this is a skill you haven't been taught yet.
It's emotional muscle. And a lot of people, I'm honoured with the police, like you get a lot of people that have had something traumatic, like sexual abuse in a child under 10, okay? People grow physically and then they grow emotionally. But when they have something traumatic happen and they can't deal with it, they don't grow emotionally, they just grow physically. So their go-to place, like Dawn was alluding to, and Pauline, their response under stress is that of where they emotionally grew to. And it might be a 6, 9, 10-year-old. And so, those people chuck tantrums. So it's about, but that's what we're talking about there is mental health. And mental health is a volunteer program. No one can do it for you. No one can do physical health for you. You know, if you want to go to the gym, you've got to have the discipline to go to the gym. If you want to get mental health help, you need to do it yourself. No one can do it for you. You know, society, you know, they're backed by corporations where they don't want you, if you're well or you're dead, is no good to any pharmaceutical company, but in between is where they make money. So they want to label you, bipolar, personality disorder, whatever, medicate you. So that's where the money comes in, and then shelve you. But if you want to get ahead, the only person who can do that is you. There's no one that can do it for you. You can get a good guide, but you can also get a bad guide. It's like the old good mechanic, bad mechanic argument. So it just comes back. If it is to be, it's up to me.
The word I was picking up from Dawn as well, this is the responsibility. And it's interesting because
That's right. You have
to how do we take responsibility and where do we learn responsibility? I was very fortunate that I had a very blessed childhood, and my parents were very responsible people. And in fact, my father taught me that, anywhere you go, if you join something, pick up a role, be responsible. And, I've always done that, often to my detriment in workload, but it's kind of instinctive because I was brought up that way. So if you look at the world that's irresponsible, where should we go and start changing society? It has to be right back in the family and parenting.
Yeah, 100%.
Like the very early
I think
age.
that. Yeah, there's too much guilt in single parent relationships, and the guilt just passes on. You know, you've got to, and then kids they just learn to chuck tantrums.
That's it. We've got an education system and we're really a society that tells us not to take responsibility, because when you do, you're going to get blamed. Whereas really that's robbing us from the chance of being able to grow. So taking that responsibility and saying, yes, it's my responsibility. But whenever we look at responsibility, we're looking at pointing the finger and saying, this is somebody who's, they're responsible, they're to blame. We should be going, this person is responsible. They're the ones who can make the change.
Yeah, and forward, especially in Australia, in New South Wales, we've got that many-state system where there's adult education. There's no pass or fail. It's competent and not yet competent, and that's crap. Like you can't achieve if there's no goal. And they're starting to take that away, and they're creating a. Holy shit! My father's ringing me. Sorry. I'm technologically disabled. I'm sorry. I'll apologise for that.
The language is fine. We're around the campfire, and that's.
But and I mean, I was thinking about the scope, because I often talk about three major influences in our changing world. One is digitalization and technology and all the things that helps us together, and the other thing is women changing the workplace. But the other one is entrepreneurship. Now, entrepreneurship is good one for people taking responsibility. If we taught kids more early that you can take your idea and you can take it to market and you can do that, and a lot of kids doing that, they become responsible. Whereas the old school system, which is go to school and be quiet and learn and do all the things you don't want to do and have to have grades, that doesn't teach us responsibility.
That's right. I look at the education system and they tell us that kids are important, but really what we're doing is we're educating the kids to fit into a box. We're not working with them so that they can become the best versions of themselves and then find the jobs that fit that. So
it's theory-based teaching too. Like if you get a trade, you're learning from someone that's actually doing it. Whereas when you go to school, you're learning from someone who learned a theory-based teaching system. And I've always thought a practical-based teaching system is always much better.
For a child to fail at things, well, that's great, because this is where you're learning and you're growing from that process. If you never put to a challenge, you're never tested, then you get a trophy for turning up. There's going to be no growth at all. And then when you get to a certain age and now you're responsible for, your own children and your partner and things like that, all of a sudden now you haven't got any skills to do it. So we're robbing ourselves on the way through. So having responsibility and knowing it's okay to fail, not for the sake of just failing, but what do we do with that failure? What do we learn from that? How do we apply that? How do we grow and move forward?
You got to keep the lesson, lose the example.
It's not failure unless that's what I teach. Sorry, it's not failure unless you give up. That's the way I see things, and that's how I teach my child and show my clients. It's only failure when you give up. It's not failure. It's a lesson. And when you reprogram the way that you see things and you go, oh, actually, this was a lesson, it changes the chemical reaction within your mind and within your body. Instead of saying, I'm a failure, then you start to lose your physiology, you give your power away, and then you go into victim mentality. And then the next minute you're in the cesspool of fear. But if you can change that and say, actually, do you know what? That was a lesson, and what I learned from this lesson is this. You start to see people's physiology changing, and they open up, and then they become empowered by it. And they're like, actually, do you know what? I did learn something, and I learned this, and you know what? I probably won't do that again because that really hurt. I don't want to go there again, rather than being a victim. So that's what I think.
That physiology is so... Oh, sorry, Pauline.
Yeah, but I think it's the big shift we need to make in the world. And if you look at all the well-known entrepreneurists, Steve Jobs, etc., he always said fail and fail fast. I was reading about Sarah Blakely, who's $1 million, she said, her father every week said to her, "So what have you failed at this week?" And he said it in a nice voice, but he said, you know, that was what really kept her going, because he said, you know, if you keep on winning, I want to know what you failed at and what you learned. So that's good parenting, and that's very different to the "you failed, go to your room."
That's it. When the parent's worried about what the child's, you know, what are you performing at? You know, when the child's got that expectation, I've always got to be performing. So therefore they start to pull back and go, well, I can't fail. When you get that attitude, I can't fail, you then do nothing, because if you do something, you might fail. So by trying to push our children to that level, we're putting an impossible barrier in their way, as opposed to, I love that, you know, what did you fail at this week? What did you fail at today?
That's right. I'll give you a quick example. I have to take a Nevada driving license to drive in the US. So I had to do a written test, and I failed the first one. And I must admit, as I failed it and I saw the fails coming up, I felt really bad. And then I thought, no, that's okay. And then, of course, when I came out, everybody said, you always fail the first time because they're trying to make money. But, you know, it's like, it's a mindset. It's what you said, Dawn. It's a mindset. My old mindset came in and thought, oh, I failed. And then I thought, oh, no, I didn't read the book. I went back the second time I passed it. So I learned from the failure. But I think that's very important. And the shift in entrepreneurship, both as individuals and in business, hasn't gone into parenting, and it hasn't gone into schools. No. So there's still old-fashioned parenting and old-fashioned schools, and that's where we've got this challenge in society, I think.
Yeah, I had my uncle. He was a self-made multi-millionaire who ended up getting the really bad pancreatic cancer at 60, and 3 months later he passed away. But he made a tremendous legacy, and I was lucky enough to be someone that, you know, obviously was on his inner circle and I could get advice. But he always had the one thing that he always said with any adversity is, what's the plan? You know, he didn't care about the adversity. What's the plan? What are you going to do? You know, and it was always about taking action. And when you're coming from a place of fear, the only thing that cures fear is action. And you've got to take action. And so many people, it's that, like I find with people that I deal with, that I've coached, I identify their fear and work out why they didn't take action. And it's just about, everything's action. You can't steer a parked car.
Yes, exactly.
You can't. And when it gets to a point where people are fixed, are stuck, they become a parked car. And then that's when the victim mentality comes in. Poor me, you know. You've just got to get them out of that. So that's one of the things I'm always looking at is, okay, the person needs to be moving. They need to be taking action. If somebody is stuck in that mindset, they've been around people who have, you know, always said to them, you know, don't fail, you've got to achieve and everything else, and they're withdrawn and they're in that state of fear. Telling them they have to move forward is one thing, but what's a good way of actually moving people forward? For somebody who's listening to this today who might say, I'm locked where I am, you know, it's my environment that's got me where I am. How can we, what sort of things can we say to them where they can start to look at things differently and say, okay, I need to take some action and have an understanding what action to take? That's where their mental health coping mechanisms come in. What have they learnt to this point? You've got to get someone that can get you out of that. You know, if you can't do it yourself, it's one thing to identify that it's there, that it's a problem, but it's another thing to take action. And if you can't take action, you know, it's like the old story. If I want to be the best 100-meter runner in the world, I don't go to the long distance coach. I go to the best. You know, you've got to identify, okay, this is where I want to be. I don't know what, I can't work out what action I've got to take. I need to find someone that can do that. You can pay, that's paid or unpaid. You can, as you know, you can get paid coaching, you get unpaid coaching, but you need to identify in your, who's around you, who can do it, and get their advice.
It sort of
I wanted to say that I agree that, you know, facing a fear, but it's also sometimes about stopping and having space.
Yeah.
Because
taking
I think
count of what's happened. Yeah.
Taking oh, sorry, somebody's trying to call me.
It's one of those days.
We're both popular, Pauline. These other calls, they don't get calls.
But I mean, I've taken the last few months, I've also, as well as working and moving in a different direction, I've taken space out of my day. I go, there's a pathway outside here, and I go out, I sit on a rock, and I readjust myself to the earth and the universe and nature. And I think for people watching who might be saying, oh, I don't think I could do the action, but taking action just to take yourself into a space of calm is a good idea. And also be with people who listen to you without judgment, who hold a space around you. And also then start shifting towards people who are doing what you want to do, but maybe better than you are, so you can take that role model. But that's action as well. So we want to make sure people listening don't think that action is actually fast forward. It could be slow, quick, slow.
Yeah, well, it'd be a case of, as you've said, taking that time out. Well, as John said, if you want to be a sprinter, then you need to get somebody who can train you into that. But first of all, you had to decide that you wanted to be a sprinter. That's where that quiet time comes from. And you take stock and you go, well, really, where do I want to be? Where do I want to be in the future? Now I know, I want to be a sprinter. Well, how do I get there? Well, I have been trying to do it on my own and haven't really got there. So now I need somebody who can guide me. As you said, John, find somebody who's actually done it, who's got experience, who is... there's not just rah-rah, but they can turn around and they can guide you through on how to do it. So you're already taking action just by sitting back and taking a bit of time to take things, in getting them into an order in your own mind.
Yep, absolutely.
Because one of the things I was reading recently, and you might know that, but burnout is now officially on the WHO list of illnesses. Did you know that? Yeah,
It was bound to be there. Yeah.
So quitting is an art now.
No, but people getting totally exhausted and burning out has been recognised as an official condition.
Well,
just because a lot of people are, but is that a cop out or is that real?
I come from a place where police and PTSD, and I've got a lot of friends that have actually, killed themselves or had substance abuse, which was my passion to first getting into coaching. And it's not a cop out. People do give up. It gets too hard, and it's not and we're talking about resilience here. So resilience to me is getting up one more time when you get knocked down. That's all you got to do. But once you get up, you got to keep punching. Life's a fight. There's no two ways about it. You can make it an easy fight, you can make it a hard fight. But it's your fight, you have to fight it. And a lot of people get a victim mentality and they can't do it. But if you're like, one of the things I'm passionate about is that I didn't realise I was as resilient as I was. It was pointed out to me by a psychologist, which Alan knows, who was the foremost expert in PTSD. And all of the people I dealt with they come from that. It's not like you've got your head and your heart, and your gut. So your heart is how you feel, your head is fear-based, and your gut is usually a combination of the two. That's your decision. All of the people that are with PTSD, it's emotional damning. They've just been through too much, and they basically close off and stay in that fear sphere. Does that make sense? Fear sphere. So they're in that fear zone. And when you're in a fear zone, you're reactive, you're reactionary, you're angry, but you can't make emotionally based decisions because they close off their emotions because it's like too hard been, it's done. So it's about getting them out, identifying what their fear is. A lot of people, I knew that with martial arts. If someone fights, for a lot of people, when you actually fight with someone, physically fight, throw punches or kicks, it's emotionally based. Well, when you fight at a higher level, it's not emotionally based. You learn to supersede that. So I learned that, if someone's going to throw a punch at me, I know that it's got to pass through a window about here, right in front of me. So I've got a few decisions I can make. I can get out of the way, I can block it, or I can punch it, which is something I used to do to a lot of people. You punch someone's fist and they don't make a fist like you do, that hand is no longer a threat. But it's the knowledge that teaches you that, which is a mindset, which gets you out of that fear. So once you can identify the fear and break it down, you can find a safe place. Even most of the time they say fear is false evidence appearing real. You can find that it's bullshit. But when it's not bullshit, you got to find a safe place in it. And you can do that. But if you can't do it yourself, you need to find someone that can help you with it.
Yeah, to take it to that higher intellectual level, it takes somebody not caught up into the emotions. And that's why
right.
another party is the one to actually help with.
And as we've discussed, emotions, that's pinnacle, because the emotions is what releases the negative endorphins in your body. And that's what hurts you. So it's about staying on top. If you can stay on top of the emotional thing, that'll stay on top of what your body does. As you said, you can get things that your body, that eats your body or feeds your body. And if you get a negative emotion that's eating your body, and it results in cancer and that sort of thing, you've got to maintain your mental health to deal with that in a positive way. Otherwise, it has an actual effect on your body. Does that make sense, or am I talking shit?
You're always talking shit. I got him.
Bloody pommies.
While you're in there, Dawn, don't let go. Come on, hit him off yourself. Don't let him get back in.
It's the John show, bless him. We just let him have the show, don't we?
You're a forward slap waiting to happen, fading.
I was going to ask you, Dawn, do you think that men and women react differently to all these things that we're talking about?
When you're in fear, it doesn't matter who you are. If fear consumes you, we all react and respond to our pre-programmed patterning. So it doesn't matter what sex you are. It's all down to how and what you experienced when you were younger, pretty much. And when you're in fear, you always go back to the earliest memory, because that's what your mind does. It goes back to the earliest memory. It always keeps you in the past as your mind to protect you. And that's the way I look at it. It doesn't matter who you are. But the way that I work with clients in regards to fear is, get them to recognize the fear, because when they recognize the fear, it's not as scary, and identify that it's not them, it's not their identity, it's not who they are, it's just an experience that they're feeling at the moment, and it doesn't feel right because they're not meant to live there. And unfortunately, people think that we're supposed to feel heavy and drained and tired and exhausted, and they think that that's comfortable and that's normal. And it's helping people recognize that that isn't normal. We're not supposed to live like that. We're supposed to be happy. We're supposed to enjoy life. We're supposed to help others enjoy their life. We're in fear. We're not doing any of that. And we're just swimming in it. And just helping people recognize. And I love what Pauline said is, action doesn't necessarily mean to say that it has to be the masculine side of action, which is move forward, pound through it, pace through it. It can just be reflective and sitting back and being with nature and going, that, yes, this has happened again, but I'm not going to judge myself for it, because to me, judgment fuels the fire of fear.
Absolutely.
It does. If you judge yourself and you judge others, it just fuels the fire of fear. So that's not a place to be. A place to be is to observe it. And that's what mindfulness is. And it's taking mindfulness to that next level and being with yourself and asking powerful questions. And when you ask yourself powerful questions, you learn from the experience. Then when you learn from the experience and you separate from the emotion that you're experiencing, then you don't judge the emotion that you're experiencing. Then you can take the action that John's talking about. But this is all learned skills. This is not that some people are born with this and they're amazing. People who are good at this have worked damn hard to be good at it.
Yeah.
So if you're not good at it, then you know what? Find someone who is. and ask them for their opinion, ask them for their support, ask them for their guidance. And don't judge yourself for where you are, because that will paralyze you with fear and keep you there.
Yeah.
And that's always been my belief, that no matter how good you are at anything, if you want to grow, you need somebody else. You know, the best coaches out there have their coaches as well. That because the other person who is not emotionally connected to it can see the stuff that you can't see when you're looking through your emotional eyes. Yeah. Going to a lot of coaches who are all rah-rah and excitement. Yes, you go to them, you walk out the next day and you've got out of there and you feel real excited. All it's done is shift the emotion. It hasn't solved anything. It's when you said mindfulness is now becoming a major push towards that into schools and everything else, because we know it works. Meditation works. It's slowing the mind down. It's not exciting it and getting it going faster, but it's reflecting, it's pulling back from whatever it is, because whatever's happening, you know, our unconscious mind, all it's there is to try to protect us. As you said, Dawn, it takes us back to the first emotion to remind us, well, this is how you survive. It's not trying to hurt us, but be able to be mindful and realise that, hey, that has a purpose. It did it back then, but what did we learn? How do we now adapt that to moving forward? And you can only do that when you quieten your mind, get the right people around you. If you're out there on stage, you're running around firewalks and all the rest of it, you're really not getting there. You're just... you know, what do you call it, amusing yourself while the stuff is still sitting there in the background.
Yeah. But it comes back to this idea of responsibility, and splitting the word responsibility. How we respond to anything, including, you know, external threats, you know, a tsunami or an earthquake. I mean, it's how do we react? How do we respond? How do we become mindful, as you say, Dawn, about who we are in the context of whatever situation we're in? And that's where it comes back to difficult people. There aren't any difficult people. There's just difficult situations where we're all different. And we all have a gift. And so if there's an emergency, you know, people will do what they need to do. And you might think, oh, well, I'm the only one who knows what's going on. But actually everybody's doing something that they need to do. And as long as you're not harming somebody else, you want to quickly understand the differences so that you can maximize them. And that's the work that I do when I look at people dynamics and gender dynamics and magical conversation, because the first rule of a magical conversation is to be free of judgment. So if we're judging ourselves, we've not even got a good start, let alone judging anybody else.
Very true.
That's right.
And that's a tough one in today's world. Yeah, lots of people seem to be very judgmental. Living in America, for sure. I don't know about Australia, but...
well, when we're judging other people, it takes the focus off us. And so, because so many people are so worried about how other people see us, if we can shift that focus, especially inside ourselves, we're not looking at ourselves either. And it makes it easier for us to do that. But quite often, we're robbing ourselves of that possibility of moving forward. Just an illusion. It's just a distraction.
And I'm really interested in collective responsibility. You know, when we're each responsible, how do we come together as responsible communities and groups? Because the world seems to be very tortured at the moment about, obviously, politics, but, you know, just, you know, is there climate change? No, there isn't. Is there this? No, it isn't. You know, everybody's judging. And I think we don't get anywhere because we're not being, as you said, Dawn, mindful or fit enough, John, you know, to really cope with whatever's coming down the road. And that's why I was intrigued by the burnout thing, is that once you officially recognize something like that at the World Health Organization, you make it something people want to have. Which is not a good idea.
That's so true. But it's never too late. It's never too late. You know, once you work out where you are and where you want to be, you know, it's if you can't get there by yourself, you get someone else. But it's so true what you say, Pauline. But you put your hand up. There's your self-judgment. Yeah, people judge themselves into a corner. But then they've got to have the strength of character to be able to put the hand up. Some people just can't ask for help, and it's as hard as you make it.
I think a lot of people don't ask for what they need.
Yeah.
I think what you were saying earlier, John, when you said about looking at where it is that you want to be, that's where the focus is. It takes it off you. You're looking for the future. As you say, whatever age you are, the rest of your life is waiting from that moment on. So
that's right.
if you're able to take that time out and look at, well, where do I really want to be? Where's the future? You're taking it away from what you're feeling now and you're getting out of that emotion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's not a bad place to start.
Well, there's no bad place to start.
It's
action is about doing.
As long as you start,
and you just got to start. A lot of people get like we've talked about fear the whole conversation, and that's it. It's the fear that keeps you back, and you've just got to. If you want to get rid of your fear, it takes action. You just got to take action. There's no such thing as bad action. It's as long as you learn from it. So, and like I said before, you can't steer a parked car. So if you're a parked car, you're a parked car. If you're not a parked car and you're moving in the wrong direction, then you turn around. Like you get what do they call it? Automatic pilot on a plane is never going the right way. It keeps getting caught going the wrong way. So it goes left and brings it back to course, and that's what it's about is moving from where you are to where you want to be, and with someone or without someone, it still needs that action. You still need to do it and make mistakes. Who cares? Mistakes aren't bad. We live in a society where you go to school, pass and fail, and make mistakes is bad. No, it's not. I know with martial arts, I got very good at it, but I've made more mistakes than anyone. It's and that's how you get better.
If we look at some of the stats on some of the great athletes, they've had more strikeouts than they've actually had great hits. But it's the fact that they made those strikeouts that they're able to make the great hits. So it's, and as you said, if you're going in the wrong direction, until you're moving, you don't know. Somebody says, well, if I make a decision that's wrong, well, you made a decision and now you know, so you know you can correct it. So like the autopilot, you readjust.
Yeah.
But you've got to make that movement in the first place. You've got to start to make some actions. But it's stop and think, well, where do I really want to be? So you know where your destination is, and then start that from that point. Go in the wrong direction.
And also don't be scared to do something that is totally different. I think a lot of people are afraid of the unknown. Whereas I find the unknown quite exciting, but some people don't. They want to know what's going to happen, and actually in today's world,
that's because she's got that adventurous trait, Alan, as you can see with the cheekbones. She's adventurous.
more and more. It's getting darker and darker. I have to turn the light on, but the world is becoming more and more unknown, I think. We don't know what's going to happen, what's going to change. So many things are changing. You can either see that as exciting or you can see that as terrifying. And it's quite interesting in America. And in Great Britain as well, I think. I don't know Australia, so I can't comment on it. But I think there's a lot of fear-based unknowns. People are argumentative and polar opposites about so many things. It's quite shocking.
I think we look at Australia, we know that we've got the tall poppy syndrome over here. I know in America, and that you get out of the mob and you start growing and you're achieving. I'll let you go so far, then I'll cut you down. Whereas in Australia, as soon as you stick your head up, we cut them down straight away. So we've got more of a fear. Our fear base, I think, is probably stronger, but we just try and put up this brave face. We don't let people see it. And I think that is probably even holding us back even further.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the majority of problems with most. But this is one of the things I'm finding with the Campfire Project. We're talking to a lot of different men. Even though their backgrounds and everything are different, the things that have held them back have been similar. It's been that fear.
Yeah.
And they've actually stepped through that, and now they're coming through the other side. And hopefully from their stories, they're getting other men who are going, maybe there is a possibility for me as well. And more are trying it.
Well, I think that's the joy of conversations and things like this, is the more we find out that, gosh, other people are actually like me, and it's okay. The more we're able to do that, we got to get out of our our houses and go and talk and smile and connect and have conversations about things rather than having arguments.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of 20, 30 years ago, when I was in Great Britain, you could have a very healthy political argument around the dinner table. You can't now. People will end up fighting about politics, and I'm going, I just don't understand that.
Yeah. The question is, why we got so emotional about that? Yeah. Sorry, John?
In Australia, we don't have that. They pick their own Prime Minister. They fight within themselves in the little argument, so it doesn't matter who you vote for. They vote for someone else.
Yeah, we'll vote them in, they'll change it anyway.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, I've been very, very loyal, and I hope one day Mickey Mouse actually does get the throne. But I've been voting for him for the whole time, and I have more faith in him than any of our people.
Yeah. No, as I say, you can always recognise one of our politicians. They got a knife in their hand. They'll soon be in someone else's back.
Yeah, and the one before had it in the back. Yeah.
But even if we listen to it, without getting into politics, we listen to our politicians. All of their conversations about fear as well. We've gone to that stage where it seems to be the first place we go to is straight into fear, and then we go from that fear brings in being judgmental of other people. And nothing goes anywhere from there. So we've got to be able to find that place where we go, okay, the only one who can change me or my future is me. It's my responsibility. If I don't have the skills to do that because I'm in this place right now, who are around me? So my job really then is to go and find somebody who has the skills. So my job then is to find the right person who can then advise me. But knowing that they've been through it as well, they know what I'm feeling right now, and therefore I shouldn't be taking any fear of what they think of me, because all I'm doing is they're looking at me saying, I know, I can see how you feel because I felt the same way, but this is what I found, and they can move you forward. That person we should be embracing and rushing out to find.
Well, that's another thing, isn't it, about being honest. Are politicians ever honest?
Well, I was at a workshop in Sydney the other week, and the gentleman, he's part of the Campfire as well, he won't mind me saying this, he had to do a presentation to me. And the first thing he said to me was, you probably won't like this, because I'm there in my jacket and everything. I was looking completely different to the way he looked. He was very casual and all the rest. So he'd made a judgment. When he started telling me his story, my mouth was open. At the end of it, I went, that was absolutely brilliant. Then we got into a conversation. So his fear was what I would think of him. What he didn't realise was once he told me his story, boom, up on the, in my estimation of what I thought of the man, just went through the roof. Yeah. And so we've had some great conversations, and we've really connected with each other. And two people who normally wouldn't have, we've judged each other, weren't judging. So this is the thing, is to say, well, look, I'm down here, fear's controlling me and everything else, but hey, you can take control of that and realise that the people, if you find the right person, you'll find somebody who fully understands, who can be supportive, and then can guide you through where you've been.
Yes. Yeah.
We have a culture of that, though, too, as Aussies. You know, you get Muslim communities and different things, they're very judgmental. Aussies always go for the underdog, and they're more accepting. So, you know, if people, I was talking to someone recently, and they'd, I didn't realise, but they'd had a sex change operation at a very young age. They'd identified who they are, and they wanted to get into coaching. And they said, and I was talking to them, I'm not a judgmental sort of person. I can be, I wasn't in this situation, but I said, your perceived weakness is your strength. You know, like to actually identify that you wanted to be a different gender, and then take the physical action and the operations and all that sort of stuff and doing it. That's huge. Like, to me, like, I'm looking at this person with admiration. I'm thinking, wow, how, like, you're sitting here with a fear, like we're talking about fear-based, a fear of someone finding out. It's not about finding out. You've already done the hard yards. There's nothing there to find out. Like, it's absolute admiration as to the strength of character to actually do that, because Most people don't, but we don't identify. A lot of people don't identify their strengths as strengths.
Mm.
You know, and as you said, because of fear of being judged.
Yeah. Well, the other thing
I think we judge ourselves more than other people judge us.
One of the things, another word I use in here is ownership. I always say to my clients, you know, if you make any major change or even a minor change, you have to own it. Because, you know, even something like changing a hairstyle or whatever, you go and you see your mates. If you don't own it, they'll go, "Oh, what have you done?" Yeah. If you go in and say, "Hey, I really like what I've done. What do you reckon?" You say it with that confidence, like, "I was a man and now I've become a woman, and that's okay." You know, it's ownership with complete, authentic confidence. And people
authentic, I think, is a big word.
Authentic confidence, and the people go, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's cool," because people around us don't like change, but if we own the change and we're really genuine and authentic, then people will honor us. So it all comes from me. It all comes down to valuing yourself.
I noticed, like, me and Dawn were at an event in California last year, and Charlie Sheen was talking on stage, and he talked about, like they said, you were getting $2 million or something, Dawn, an episode for 2.5 Men or whatever the show was, and you've blown it all. And he said, "Yeah, what did you blow it all on?" He said, "Hookers, drugs, and alcohol." Like, he owned it. Like, who would say that? And I'm sitting there going, well, he's just, he owned it. He owns his stuff. Like, my admiration of him is the fact that he owned it. You know, he's not trying to hide behind it, which is what everyone else on the planet would try and do. But he owned it. Yeah, stood there proud. And I'm like, okay, good on you. Go, Charlie.
We're attracted to certainty. That's what I've found with working with people. We're attracted to certainty. And in order to be certain with integrity, you need to be authentic. And it's a combination of all of those things. To have clear and honest certainty, you need to be authentic. And people know when you're authentic and not. Our nervous system is programmed to work this out. When you walk in a room and there's been an argument and there's that thick, dense energy in there, you know that you might not be safe, and your body picks up on that. And it's the same when someone has certainty and it's not backed with authenticity. People know that you're not being truthful and you're not within integrity of yourself or anybody else. And people can read that. And people are waking up and starting to, instead of suppressing and hiding that information that's coming up for them, they're starting to sit with it and go, hang on, I want to be followed. I want to follow somebody who is certain and authentic, because then they have integrity within themselves. I don't want people to lie to me anymore. I don't want people to be fake with their certainty. And that's what's happening. People are waking up to that, and they want to follow people who are authentic. And from authenticity, you become certain, because you know that you're being within integrity of yourself. They all work together. All three of them work together. And that's what we're looking for now. And it's beautiful that we're looking for that.
That's great, because if we're looking at authenticity and people being ethical and everything else in other people, then knowing that if we're looking for that in ourselves as well, we're on the right track. That's a place to start with, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And anything that gets in your way from being those three things, all that is it's an alarm bell to tell you that you need to work on it. That's it. It's not right, it's not wrong, it just is, and you just need to work on that. That's what your next step is. In order for you to be integrity, authentic and certain, what's stopping me from doing that? Well, this is, okay, can I do it myself? Yes, I can. Can I do it myself? No, I can't. I'll go see somebody and get advice and get help. That's all it is. That life is simple. It's just not easy. Life is simple. It's just not easy. That's what I say all the time to people. It's simple. If you're authentic, if you're authentic with yourself, then everything else will work out. But do you know what? Is it easy being authentic? No, because we've been suppressed and told not to be. Because being vulnerable is being weak. So we've got all these programs that are running us, telling us not to be authentic because you're being vulnerable and someone will take you down. And then we're back in the cycle of fear again. You've just got to own and control that in a way that's going to serve you and not to your demise.
And that's probably a really beautiful way to wrap this up today with that bit of advice, and for people to go away and think about that and go from there. So I'd like to thank all three of you on that for being on the show again today. And thanks, Pauline. I know it's getting on into the evening over there.
That's okay. I just had to put my lights on. I was getting so dark. But it's been fantastic to be here. I really enjoyed Dawn and John and you, as ever, really, really good. I enjoy this. It's a real, very inspiring and life-enhancing experience. So thank you.
As you say, Pauline, it's all about the meaningful conversations, and we've always
Magical
had those
conversations. Yeah.
So thank you very much, and thank you very much, Dawn. This is your first one, so I'm looking forward to seeing you on here more. And John, well, what can I say?
Maybe no.
Thanks, Alan. As always, it was awesome. Oh, wow. Here we go. Okay, the Pommies after the Aussie. Look out.
Oh, I love you, John. You know it's from a love place.
Thanks again, John. It's really great. So for everybody who's been listening today, I hope you got something out of all of this. And remember, if you've connected and gelled with any of the people here today, Pauline, Dawn or John, get a conversation going with them. Get in touch with them. Ask their thoughts and everything. Because as we've been talking about, if you want to move forward, think about where you want to go and then get in touch with the people who can help you. And if you think either of these three can do that, get in touch with them and have a chat. Anyway, thanks again for everybody, and we'll see you on the next Campfire Project. Bye for now.